The night my wife left me, I brought her a photo album. Natalie brought Victor Langford. I stood beside our reserved table with the album under one arm and watched them walk toward me together. Victor's hand rested against the small of her back. Natalie did not move away. She wore the silver dress I had bought her for our 5th anniversary. She had once laughed, wrapped her arms around my neck, and told me she would save it for nights that mattered. Apparently, our divorce qualified. You're late, I said. Natalie stopped across from me. Her eyes moved to the album, then away. Ronan, sit down. Victor pulled out her chair before I could. He wore a dark tailored suit, a watch worth more than Natalie and I had paid for our first apartment, and the relaxed smile of a man who believed he had already won. I remained standing. This was supposed to be dinner with my wife. Natalie's mouth tightened. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Victor took the seat beside her instead of the one across from her. That told me more than either of them had said. I slowly placed the album on the table. 7 years of marriage sat inside it. Our courthouse wedding, the first hotel Natalie had tried to save. The night we painted her original office ourselves because she could not afford contractors. The opening of Brooks House Charleston. The magazine cover that called her the new face of boutique hospitality. There were no pictures of me standing on stage. I had always been behind the camera. Natalie looked at the album but did not touch it. What is that? A reminder, I said. I thought we needed one. Victor leaned back. This is exactly the problem. I looked at him. You being at my anniversary dinner? Your inability to understand where Natalie is going. Natalie exhaled sharply. Victor, no. He lifted one hand. We agreed we would be direct. I pulled out my chair and sat. All right, be direct. Natalie folded her hands on the table. Her engagement ring and wedding band caught the light. For a few seconds, she stared at them. Then she slid both rings off. I filed for divorce this morning. The words landed without drama. No shouting. No broken glass. No trembling voice. Just a legal decision delivered between the appetizer plates. I looked at the rings in front of her. When were you planning to tell me? I'm telling you now. When did you decide? Her eyes hardened. This hasn't been working for a long time. That wasn't my question. Victor gave a small laugh. You're cross-examining her now? I turned toward him. You're sitting beside my wife while she ends our marriage. You don't get to complain about my tone. His smile disappeared. Natalie pressed her fingertips to her forehead. This is why I didn't want a scene. I haven't made one. You're doing that thing where you become cold and superior. I'm asking when my wife decided to leave me. She stared at me. 6 months ago. Victor had joined her company 7 months ago. I nodded once. And him? Natalie did not answer. Victor did. For months. Her head snapped toward him. That was not yours to say. You wanted honesty. I almost laughed. The great Victor Langford, champion of honesty, had spent 4 months sleeping with another man's wife. I looked at Natalie. Did you love him before you slept with him? Or did that come later? Her face flushed. I'm not discussing intimate details with you. I'm still your husband. Only legally. That hurt more than I expected. Not because she wanted out. Because she had already rewritten our marriage into an inconvenience. A server approached, took one look at us, and quietly stepped away. Natalie reached into her handbag and removed a folder. I want this handled cleanly. I'm not asking for the apartment. You can keep the joint savings. I'll cover the legal fees. I opened the folder. The divorce papers were on top. The technology assignment agreement was underneath. I read the first page, then the second. Victor watched me carefully. Natalie tried to sound gentle. It's standard. No, it isn't. It protects the company. It transfers permanent ownership of every operating model. Recovery protocol, vendor matrix, pricing algorithm, crisis response manual, and restructuring framework I created. Victor crossed one ankle over his knee. The systems were developed during the marriage and used by Brooks Hospitality. They were licensed to Brooks Hospitality. I said, they were never owned by it. Natalie's voice sharpened. You created them for my hotels. I created them before your company existed. I adapted them for your hotels. You're splitting hairs. I'm defining ownership. Her jaw tightened. There had been a time when Natalie loved hearing me talk about contracts. She used to sit cross-legged on our couch, hand me a yellow marker, and ask me to explain every clause twice. Now she looked at me as if competence were an act of hostility. Victor leaned forward. My fund is preparing a $1 billion acquisition package. The systems need to be included among the company's assets. They aren't company assets. They're essential to the valuation. That's not my problem. Natalie slapped one palm against the table. It is your problem. This company is the reason we have anything. I stared at her. The reason we have anything? You know what I mean? No. Explain it. She glanced around, embarrassed by the attention from nearby tables. I built Brooks Hospitality. You founded it. I worked 16-hour days. So did I. I raised capital. I kept 3 of your first 5 properties out of bankruptcy. I was the public face. Because you asked me to stay out of the spotlight. She gave a frustrated laugh. You always do this. You keep a list of every favor so you can remind me that I owe you. I have never asked you to owe me. Then sign. There it was. Not gratitude. Not regret. A demand. I closed the folder. No. Natalie blinked. What? I'll sign the divorce papers after my attorney reviews them. I will not sign the assignment. Victor's expression cooled. You may want to reconsider. Is that advice or a threat? It's reality. Natalie's company is moving into a different league. Without her, you have no platform, no reputation, and no meaningful income. I looked at Natalie. She did not defend me. Instead, she said, Victor has offered you a consulting payment. I opened the folder again and found the number, $100,000, for systems that had produced hundreds of millions in recovered revenue. I pushed the paper back toward her. You told him that was enough? It's generous. You paid more than that for the launch party in Miami. That party attracted investors. My work kept the Miami property from being seized by its lender. Victor tapped one finger against the table. You're emotionally attached to your contribution. I'm legally attached to it. Natalie's eyes narrowed. I knew you would do this. Do what? Punish me for leaving. I leaned back. I warned you 3 months ago that Victor's fund was over-leveraged. I showed you the debt exposure. I asked you not to pledge the company's operating assets until an independent audit was completed. You were jealous. I was accurate. You hated that someone finally treated me like I belonged in the room. I helped you build the room. Her face went still. Victor's voice dropped. Careful. I turned toward him. You entered her company, praised her ambition, isolated her from every executive who questioned you, and convinced her to transfer valuable assets into a fund carrying hidden obligations. Natalie looked furious. Stop talking about me like I'm stupid. I don't think you're stupid. Then respect my decision. I respect your right to make it. I don't respect the lie you used to justify it. What lie? That I held you back. For 1 second, neither of them spoke. I opened the photo album. The first page showed Natalie standing in front of a failing roadside in outside Savannah. She was 25, exhausted, and smiling because she had convinced the owner to give her 90 days to turn it around. I had rebuilt the booking strategy, renegotiated the food contracts, replaced the reservation system, and slept on the office floor for 2 weeks. I turned another page. Brooks House, Charleston, then Denver, then Miami. Every success had her face on it. That had never bothered me. What bothered me was hearing her pretend I had not been there. Natalie's eyes softened for half a heartbeat. Then Victor placed his hand over hers. She let him. I closed the album. I came here prepared to fight for our marriage. Natalie swallowed. I thought maybe we were tired. Maybe success changed the way we spoke to each other. I thought I could remind you of who we were before every conversation became a negotiation. Ronan. But you brought him. Her guilt turned quickly into irritation. I'm not going to apologize for choosing a future. No. You should apologize for pretending I wasn't part of the past that built it. Victor stood. This conversation is over. I looked up at him. You don't decide when conversations with my wife end. She doesn't want to be your wife. The words came out smug. I stood too. Victor was taller than me by an inch. He seemed to expect that to matter. It didn't. Then she can say it. Natalie rose slowly. Her fingers trembled, but her voice did not. I don't want to be your wife anymore. I held her gaze. Because you love him? She hesitated. Victor's expression changed. That hesitation was the first honest thing she had given either of us all night. Natalie lifted her chin. Because I've outgrown this marriage. I nodded. All right. Her brows pulled together. That's it? You asked for a divorce. I expected you to understand why. I understand perfectly. No, you don't. You believe Victor can give you access to a world I can't. You believe his money proves his value, and my refusal to chase status proves I have none. She opened her mouth. I continued. You think I'm safe, ordinary, and useful. You think he's powerful. Victor smiled again. I looked directly at him. And both of you think the systems you need belong to a man too weak to protect them. His smile faded. I signed the acknowledgement page confirming I had received the divorce petition. Then I separated the technology assignment agreement and tore it once through the middle. Natalie gasped. What the hell are you doing? Declining. You're destroying my company. No. I'm refusing to let you give my work to your boyfriend. She looked at the torn pages as if I had struck her. You said you loved me. I did. Then help me one last time. I picked up the album. I loved you. So I helped you build your dream. My voice remained steady, though something inside me had begun to crack. But love is not permission to hand me to another man, so he can strip me for parts. Natalie's eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away. You're going to regret this. Maybe. You have nowhere to go. I'll manage. Doing what? She snapped. Fixing broken air conditioners? Handling vendor complaints? You haven't held a real executive title in years. Victor put an arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him. Without me, she said, you won't even find a respectable job. I looked at the woman I had chosen over my family, my name, and every door that had once been open to me. Then I thought of another woman, a 17-year-old girl standing in a hotel library with tears in her eyes, trying to tell me something I had been too proud to hear. I pushed the wedding ring from my finger. It felt heavier than it should have. You'd better pray you're right. Natalie. I set it beside hers and walked away. I did not go home. The apartment had been hers before it was ours, and I could not face the framed magazine covers or the empty space beside our bed. I went downstairs to the hotel bar and ordered bourbon. After the second drink, I opened the album again. Natalie smiling on our wedding day. Natalie asleep against my shoulder during a delayed flight. Natalie kissing my cheek after our first profitable quarter. Had any of it been real? That was the question I could not answer. My phone vibrated. 3 missed calls from my father. 1 message from an Ashford family attorney. 1 from a number I had never deleted. Serafina Whitmore. I did not open it. 12 years earlier, I had told her I wanted someone who would love me without knowing what my name could buy. She had looked at me with a calmness that hid how badly I had hurt her. Go find the love you want, she had said. Then her voice had softened. But don't spend your whole life proving your choice was right. I finished the bourbon. The bartender approached. Another? No. You sure? I've made enough bad decisions tonight. A woman's voice came from behind me. Only tonight? I froze. No one else spoke to me with that exact mixture of judgment and concern. I turned. Serafina stood a few feet away in a black suit. Her dark hair pulled back. Her posture as controlled as I remembered. 12 years had sharpened her beauty and turned her composure into something powerful enough to silence boardrooms. Her gaze moved to the ring on the bar, then to the album. She did not smile. She placed a folder in front of me and took the seat Natalie should have occupied. I looked down at the Whitmore International seal. What is this? A job offer. At midnight? You've always worked strange hours. I opened the folder. Global Chief Asset Strategist. Full authority over distressed acquisitions and international restructuring. No family conditions. No marriage clauses. No requirement that I reclaim the Ashford inheritance. I looked at her. How long have you known that Natalie was involved with Langford? Her expression did not change. For months, anger cut through the alcohol. And you said nothing? It was your marriage. You could have warned me. I could protect your contracts. I could track Victor's fund. I could make sure your intellectual property remained registered in your name. Her eyes held mine, but I could not decide whether you should trust your wife. I shut the folder. So this is your victory? For the first time, pain broke through her control. It appeared in the slight tightening of her mouth and the way her fingers curled against the table. You think I wanted this? You waited 12 years. I waited for you to come back. I did not wait for someone to break you. Her voice dropped. If Natalie had made you happy, I would have stayed away for the rest of my life. I had no answer. Serafina looked at the ring again. Then she pushed the contract toward me. I'm not asking you to return to your family. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm offering you a place where no one will erase your name from your own work. I stared at the signature line. What do you want in return? Her eyes lifted to mine. The woman every executive in the hotel industry feared suddenly looked almost tired. Tonight, she swallowed. I want you to stop pretending you have nowhere to go. For the first time since Natalie had removed her wedding ring, I felt something other than humiliation. It was not hope. Not yet. But when Serafina reached across the table and closed the photo album for me, I did not pull away. And somewhere behind the pain, a dangerous thought took shape. Maybe losing my wife was not the end of my life. Maybe it was the moment I finally stopped running from it. I read Serafina's contract 3 times before signing it. Not because I doubted the terms, because I doubted her. She sat across from me in the hotel bar, her hands folded beside an untouched glass of water. She did not rush me. She did not mention Natalie again. She simply waited while I searched for the trap I was certain had to be there. There wasn't one. No requirement that I return to the Ashford family. No demand for exclusive ownership of my work. No hidden marriage arrangement disguised as a business clause. I placed the pen down. You gave me veto power over every acquisition I lead. Yes. And independent ownership of any system I create. Yes. And I can resign without a non-compete restriction. Her eyebrow lifted. Do you want me to make the offer worse so you'll feel more comfortable? I want to understand why you're giving me this much authority. Because you're qualified. That's not the whole answer. No, she said quietly. It isn't. I leaned back. Serafina met my eyes without flinching. I know what it feels like to have people reduce your work to your last name. She said, I won't reduce yours to your relationship with me. The words hit harder than they should have. Natalie had spent years accepting my help and then telling herself it had not mattered. Serafina had spent 12 years away from me and still understood exactly what I feared. I signed. Her shoulders loosened so slightly that anyone else would have missed it. When do I start? 8:30 tomorrow morning. I looked at my watch. That's in 7 hours. You always said sleep was inefficient. I was 19. You were annoying at 19. I'm still annoying. Yes. The corner of her mouth moved. But now you have experience. For the first time that night, I almost smiled. Then I remembered the wedding ring on the bar. My expression must have changed because Serafina's amusement disappeared. I'll have a car take you somewhere private, she said. I can get a room. You're not staying in the hotel where your wife announced your divorce. Former wife. The divorce isn't final. It was final before she brought Victor to dinner. Serafina looked at me for a long moment. Then she rose. I have an apartment in the Whitmore residence tower. No one uses it. I'm not moving into your building. You're sleeping there for one night. That sounds like an order. It is. I haven't worked for you long enough to ignore those. You've worked for me for 12 minutes. Then I should establish boundaries early. She picked up the signed contract. Your first boundary can be refusing the guest suite after you've seen it. I followed her because I was exhausted, not because she had one. At least, that was what I told myself. The next morning, I entered Whitmore International's headquarters wearing the same suit from the anniversary dinner. Serafina noticed immediately. Her gaze moved over my wrinkled jacket and open collar. You didn't sleep. I slept. For how long? Enough. 2 hours is not enough. You've been counting? I checked the security log. I stared at her. That's unsettling. It's efficient. Her chief of staff, a sharp-eyed woman named Claire Dalton, entered carrying 2 coffees. She handed one to Serafina and one to me. I took a sip. Black. 1 sugar. Exactly the way I drank it. I looked at Serafina. She opened a folder as if nothing had happened. You remembered. I remember operational details. My coffee is an operational detail? You become hostile without it. Claire pressed her lips together, clearly trying not to smile. Serafina pointed toward the conference room. Board meeting in 5 minutes. What am I presenting? You're not. Then why am I there? So they understand who has authority. The board members were already seated when we entered. I recognized most of them. Some had known me as the Ashford heir. Others knew me only as the man behind Brooks Hospitality's recovery systems. None of them looked pleased to see me. Gordon Pierce, a longtime Whitmore director, folded his arms. Serafina, this appointment was not approved. It didn't require approval. The chief asset strategy role controls billions in restructuring decisions. Yes, she said. That is why I hired someone competent. Pierce glanced at me. Mr. Ashford has been absent from the industry's upper level for more than a decade. I took a seat beside Serafina. I've been working in the industry the entire time. Behind your wife. Behind a company. His mouth tightened. A company now preparing to accuse you of withholding proprietary material. Serafina's expression turned cold. Brooks Hospitality has no ownership claim over Mr. Ashford's systems. Pierce shrugged. That remains to be determined. No, she replied. It does not. She placed a stack of documents in front of him. Every framework Ronan developed was registered, licensed, and independently archived. Whitmore's legal department verified the chain of ownership before midnight. I turned toward her. You did that last night? She ignored me. Pierce flipped through the documents. This still creates unnecessary controversy. Serafina leaned forward. Then let me remove the controversy. Her voice never rose. but the entire room went silent. Ronan Ashford will lead the Carrington portfolio restructuring. Every report, presentation, and public statement will carry his name. One director shifted uncomfortably. Traditionally, our executive committee receives collective credit. Tradition is not theft. Pierce looked at me, and if he fails, Serafina did not look away from him. Then the failure will carry his name too. That surprised several people. It did not offend me. It was exactly what I wanted. Responsibility without erasure. After the meeting, I followed her into her office. You didn't have to fight the board for me. She set the contract file on her desk. I didn't. You threatened Pierce in front of everyone. I corrected him. You enjoy terrifying people, only when they make it easy. I stepped closer. You verified every one of my registrations before offering me the job. Yes. How long have you been tracking my work? She paused. Professionally? That answer means longer than you want to admit. Her eyes moved away from mine. I read the first restructuring article you published under a consulting alias. That was 9 years ago. It was poorly edited. It won an industry award. The methodology won an award. The writing was terrible. I laughed despite myself. Her face softened at the sound. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she reached for her coffee too quickly and knocked a pen onto the floor. Serafina Whitmore did not drop things. I bent to pick it up at the same time she did. Our hands brushed. She pulled back immediately. A faint blush appeared across her cheeks. I stared. She straightened. Don't what? Look amused. I'm not amused. You're smiling. I didn't know you could blush. I don't. You are right now. She took the pen from my hand. The Carrington files are in your office. You changed the subject. I ended the conversation. My office was directly across from hers. That should have been my first warning. The second was that the coffee machine outside my door had been stocked with the brand I had preferred since college. The third was the old photograph on the bookshelf. Serafina and I at 16, standing beside 2 horses after a charity competition. She was looking at the camera. I was looking at her. I picked up the frame. She appeared in the doorway. I was already there. In the office no one used. It was in storage. You put it here. You were difficult to photograph. It's one of the few pictures where you aren't making a face. I remembered that day. More accurately, I remembered another competition 2 years earlier. Serafina had fallen hard enough to dislocate her shoulder. Everyone near the ring had frozen because they were afraid of being blamed. I had climbed the fence before the medic arrived. She had been 14, pale with pain, furious at herself for crying. Don't look at me, she had whispered. I had wrapped my jacket around her head while carrying her away. You can cry. I'm not crying. Then my jacket is sweating. She had laughed once and then buried her face against my shoulder. I won't tell anyone. I had promised. Standing in my new office, I looked at the woman she had become. Why did you keep this picture? Her expression guarded itself. Why did you keep helping Natalie after she stopped respecting you? The question landed cleanly. Habit, I said. Serafina nodded. Then perhaps we both kept things longer than we should have. Before I could answer, Claire appeared. Ms. Brooks is downstairs. My body went still. Serafina's face became unreadable. Does she have an appointment? She asked. No. Then she can leave. I looked at her. I'll speak to Natalie. You don't owe her access to you. She's still connected to the licensing dispute. Serafina's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Conference room 3. Natalie entered 10 minutes later, wearing sunglasses indoors. She removed them when she saw me. Her eyes were swollen. Ronan. I remained standing. What do you need? She looked towards Serafina, who had taken a seat at the far end of the table. This is private. Serafina folded her hands. No. Natalie's face hardened. Excuse me? You came into my building regarding a Whitmore executive and a disputed commercial agreement. Nothing about that is private. Natalie turned to me. You're an executive now? I accepted a position. Less than 12 hours after I left you? You had another man before you left me. She flinched. That's not fair. It's exact. Natalie placed a document in front of me. Victor says the acquisition will collapse if you don't release the system. Then Victor valued assets he didn't own. He says we can resolve this without court. We can. Stop claiming ownership. Her eyes filled. You want to humiliate me? No. I want my work. I gave you 7 years. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You gave me a marriage you were already betraying. She looked towards Serafina. So this is what you wanted all along? To go back to her? I didn't answer quickly enough. Natalie laughed bitterly. I knew it. She's been waiting for you to fail. Serafina's expression changed, but she remained silent. I looked at her and saw pain she would never show the rest of the world. Then I looked back at Natalie. She offered me a contract that protects my ownership. So now she's your savior? No. She gave me a platform. I'll save myself. Natalie's mouth trembled. You're really choosing her? This is not about choosing between two women. It feels like it. You made your choice at our anniversary dinner. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. That hurt her more than anything I had said. Ronan, Victor is under pressure. He said things he didn't mean. What things? Her eyes shifted. I understood immediately. Did he threaten you? No. Natalie, he said if the acquisition fails, the board may remove me. And what did he ask you to do? She said nothing. Serafina rose. This meeting is over. Natalie glared at her. You don't get to order me around. Serafina walked to my side and slipped her hand around my arm. The gesture looked effortless. It wasn't. I felt the tension in her fingers. You're right, she said. I don't control you. Her gaze sharpened. But I do control who remains in my headquarters. Natalie stared at her hand on me. Then she looked at my face. You're going to regret trusting her. I held the door open. I'm not trusting anyone yet. Serafina's fingers loosened. The hurt in her eyes returned. Natalie left without another word. When the door closed, Serafina released my arm. Sorry. For what? That was unnecessary. You wanted her to leave. Yes. You also wanted her to see you touch me. Her chin lifted. I have no idea what you mean. Serafina. She walked toward the window. I dislike being accused of waiting for your marriage to fail. I know. I would never have interfered. I know. She turned sharply. Do you? Her voice cracked just enough to expose the woman beneath the executive. If Natalie had loved you properly, I would have stayed away. I would have hated it. I would have hated every photograph, every anniversary announcement, every interview where she called you her greatest supporter. She inhaled slowly. But I would have stayed away because you were happy. I stepped toward her. You really followed all of it? I tried not to. That isn't an answer. No. Her eyes shone. I never stopped looking. The office became too quiet. I wanted to believe her. That was what frightened me. I looked away first. I can't give you anything right now. I didn't ask. You took my arm. Natalie annoyed me. You stocked my coffee. You're unpleasant without caffeine. You put our picture in my office. That wall needed something. I smiled. She frowned. Stop doing that. Doing what? Looking at me like you can see through me. I've always been able to see through you. Her expression softened. That was the problem. Over the next 2 weeks, we worked 12-hour days on the Carrington portfolio. Serafina kept every promise in my contract. She gave me authority, challenged my assumptions, and refused to let anyone take credit for my decisions. She also pursued me with the subtlety of a hostile takeover. She reserved the seat beside her at every meeting. She had her driver wait for me each night. She changed the music in the car to songs I had loved at 17. When I questioned her, she said, the driver chose it. The driver stared straight ahead and said nothing. At an industry dinner, she reached across the table and adjusted my tie. Her fingers brushed my throat. She froze. I leaned closer. Operational detail? Her cheeks turned pink. Your tie was crooked. It wasn't. It is now. Later, after 2 glasses of wine, she followed me into the elevator. The doors closed. I pressed the lobby button. She pressed stop. I looked at her. What are you doing? Serafina stood between me and the controls. I've been patient. For 2 weeks? For 12 years. Her confidence held until I stepped closer. Then she swallowed. I told you I'm not ready. I know. So what is this? She lifted her chin. I want permission to pursue you. You've already been pursuing me. Then I want you to stop pretending you haven't noticed. I folded my arms. Your method of pursuit is ordering me into cars and correcting my tie. I don't have experience. You run an international hotel empire. That is not the same. You negotiate billion-dollar acquisitions. Hotels don't make me nervous. I do. She glared at me, which was answer enough. I smiled. Her eyes narrowed. Don't laugh. I'm not laughing. You're enjoying this. A little. Serafina took one step forward and wrapped her arms around me. The move was bold. The way she held her breath was not. For several seconds, I did nothing. Then my hand settled against her waist. Her entire body stiffened. When she looked up, her face was bright red. I raised an eyebrow. Theoretical experience? Be quiet. You stopped the elevator to hug me. I may revise the strategy. You should. Her grip tightened instead of loosening. I felt my own laughter rise. real and unguarded. It was the first time I had laughed like that since before my marriage began to die. Serafina buried her face against my chest. If you tell anyone about this, I'll fire you. You gave me termination protection. I'll buy the building and remove the elevator. I rested my chin lightly against her hair. For one dangerous moment, holding her felt natural, too natural. I closed my eyes. Maybe my heart was not ready to trust her, but it had already started remembering her. 3 weeks after Serafina stopped an elevator to hug me, Victor Langford accused me of stealing my own work. He chose the morning Whitmore International announced the Carrington restructuring. The announcement should have been simple. We had acquired 6 distressed luxury properties, renegotiated their debt, preserved nearly 2,000 jobs, and convinced 3 lenders to accept long-term equity instead of forcing liquidation. The financial press called it impossible. I called it overdue. Serafina stood beside me backstage while Claire adjusted the schedule. "You're giving the presentation," Serafina said. "I wrote the presentation." "That is not what I said. You're the CEO, and you led the restructuring. The press expects you. The press can learn to manage disappointment." I glanced at her. "You really enjoy forcing me into the spotlight." She reached up and straightened my tie. It had not needed straightening. Her fingers remained near my collar for a second too long. "You spent 7 years letting someone else stand in front of your work," she said. "I won't help you hide." "I wasn't hiding. You were protecting Natalie's ego." "That sounds judgmental." "It is." I caught her wrist before she could pull away. Her eyes widened. For a woman who could dismiss an executive without blinking. Serafina still reacted to my touch like I had surprised her with a confession. "You're nervous," I said. "I am not. You've adjusted my tie 4 times. It keeps moving because you keep touching it." A faint blush reached her cheeks. Claire cleared her throat. "We go live in 90 seconds. Serafina stepped back immediately. I smiled. She narrowed her eyes. "Say one word, and I'll assign you to an airport hotel in Nebraska. You'd visit. I would inspect the property. Every weekend?" Her blush deepened. Claire opened the door before Serafina could answer. The room was filled with investors, journalists, employees, and executives from every major hospitality company in the country. Natalie was there. She sat near the back beside Victor. Her face went still when she saw me walk onto the stage instead of remaining behind Serafina. Victor leaned toward her and whispered something. Natalie did not respond. I began with the numbers. 6 properties, 3 countries, $4 billion in total obligations. The presentation moved quickly. I explained the debt conversion, management restructuring, employee retention program, an operating system that would connect the properties without erasing their individual brands. When questions began, a reporter from the Financial Ledger raised her hand. "Mr. Ashford, Brooks Hospitality has stated that portions of your restructuring model were developed during your marriage to Natalie Brooks. How do you respond to concerns about ownership?" The room quieted. Victor's mouth curved into a small smile. I looked directly at him, the same way I respond to any ownership question. With documents. A screen behind me displayed the original registrations, dates, versions, independent archives, licensing agreements signed by Natalie herself. I continued. "The core model was created 11 years ago. Brooks Hospitality received a limited operating license 7 years ago. That license did not include ownership, transfer rights, or permission to use the system as collateral." Natalie lowered her eyes. Victor kept smiling, but his jaw tightened. Another reporter stood. "Why did you never claim public credit while working with Brooks Hospitality?" "Because my wife was building a brand, and I believe supporting her did not require competing with her. And now she is no longer my wife." The room reacted instantly. Cameras turned toward Natalie. She stood abruptly and left. Victor followed her. I finished the presentation without looking back. Afterward, Serafina met me behind the stage. "You could have warned me about that final answer," she said. "It was true. It will dominate every headline." "Is that bad for Whitmore?" "No." "Then why are you frowning?" She folded her arms. "Because you looked at Natalie when you said it." I studied her face. "Are you jealous?" "No." That was quick. "I don't compete with married women." She filed for divorce. "It isn't final. You pulled me into an elevator. That was a temporary lapse in judgment. You've had several." She tried to walk past me. I caught her hand. Serafina stopped. I expected her to pull away. She didn't. Her fingers slowly closed around mine. The anger left her expression. replaced by something more vulnerable. I don't know what you feel when you see her, she said. Mostly disappointment. Mostly. 7 years doesn't disappear because someone signs a petition. Her fingers loosened. I tightened my grip. But loving who she used to be doesn't mean I want who she became. Serafina looked down at our hands. Is this another temporary lapse in judgment? No. Her eyes lifted. Before she could answer, Claire approached with her phone in one hand. We have a problem. Serafina's expression changed instantly. What happened? Langford Capital released a statement accusing Ronan of misappropriating Brooks' hospitality data. I let go of Serafina and took the phone. The statement claimed I had copied confidential customer records, revenue projections, and supplier contracts before joining Whitmore. It also claimed I had used those materials during the Carrington acquisition. Victor had attached screenshots. They looked convincing. They were also fake. I enlarged one image. The document header is wrong. Claire leaned closer. How can you tell? Natalie changed the file naming system last year. This uses the old format, but the metadata claims it was created last month. Serafina was already calling legal. Freeze all external transfers. Preserve every device and server connected to the Carrington team. I touched her arm. Don't respond yet. She looked at me sharply. He accused you of corporate theft. He wants us angry. He's getting his wish. If Whitmore releases everything now, he'll change his story before regulators examine his fund. Her eyes stayed cold. What are you suggesting? We let him believe the accusation worked. Claire frowned. The market could react. It will. Serafina stepped closer. And your reputation? I spent 12 years living without my family name. I could survive 48 hours of bad headlines. Her expression softened for half a second. Then she nodded. 48 hours. By noon, 3 financial networks were calling me a disgraced consultant. By 2, the Whitmore board demanded that Serafina suspend me. At 3, Gordon Pierce entered her office without knocking. You need to remove him from the Carrington project. Serafina did not look up from the report in front of her. No. Whitmore stock is down 6%. It will recover. Not if regulators open an investigation. They should. Pierce stared at her. You're protecting him because of your personal history. I stood from the couch. Leave her out of it. He turned toward me. You should resign before you destroy this company too. Serafina closed the folder. Mr. Pierce, Ronan has produced more verified value for this company in 1 month than you have in the past 4 years. His face reddened. That is outrageous. It is documented. You're risking your position. She leaned back. I own controlling interest. You still answer to the board. I answer for my decisions. I do not ask permission to make them. Pierce pointed at me. If he is guilty, he isn't. You can't know that. Serafina's voice became quieter. I knew him when he lost his inheritance for defending a hotel employee whose family had no power. Pierce stopped. He had every opportunity to steal, exploit, and manipulate people. He chose not to, even when doing the right thing cost him everything. She looked directly at him. So yes, I know. Pierce left without another word. I remained silent until the door closed. Serafina picked up her pen. Don't. She glanced at me. Don't what? Make me feel something while I'm trying to plan a counterattack. Her fingers stilled. That sounds inconvenient. It is. Should I apologize? You wouldn't mean it. No. I walked toward her desk. You defended me without seeing the evidence. I saw your face when you read the accusation. That's not evidence. It was enough for me. The answer frightened me more than Victor's attack. Natalie had once trusted me too, or I had believed she did. Serafina noticed me withdraw. Her expression changed. You think I'm being foolish. I think blind trust is dangerous. This isn't blind. You haven't been part of my life for 12 years. I know. You don't know every decision I made. No. Then how can you be certain? She stood. Because I'm not trusting a fantasy of you. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes shone. I know you're proud. I know you become cruel when you feel cornered. I know you would rather lose sleep for a week than admit you need help. I'm not cruel. You once told a board member his strategy had the structural integrity of wet cardboard. It did. You see, despite myself, I smiled. She stepped closer. I know you make mistakes. Ronan, trusting you does not mean believing you're perfect. Her hand touched my chest. It means believing that when the truth is uncomfortable, you still choose it. For several seconds, I could not speak. Then Claire called from the doorway. Natalie Brooks is on line 1. Serafina's hand dropped. I picked up the phone. Natalie was crying. Ronan, I need to see you. Why? Victor locked me out of the company accounts. I looked at Serafina. She gave me nothing. No order. No warning. Just the choice. Where are you? I asked. Natalie met me at a coffee shop near Madison Avenue. She looked nothing like the woman who had ended our marriage. Her makeup had faded. Her hair was pulled back carelessly. She kept checking the entrance as if Victor might appear. He used my shares as collateral. She said, "You signed the authorization. I thought it was temporary. You signed a voting proxy and a transfer option." Her face crumpled. "He told me it was necessary for the acquisition. I warned you. I know. You called me jealous. I know." She covered her face with both hands. For 7 years, that gesture would have made me move toward her. This time, I remained in my chair. Natalie lowered her hands. "He never intended to build the company with me. No. He wanted your system." "Yes." Her lips trembled. "Did you know from the beginning?" "I suspected his fund was in trouble." "Why didn't you stop me?" "I tried. You could have told me who you were." The words came out angry. There was again, not regret over betraying me. Regret over misjudging my value. I leaned back. What would my name have changed? Her eyes widened. "Everything. That's the problem. Ronan, you believed I had no money, no status, and no important connections. That was the man you were married to. You lied to me. I hid an inheritance I had rejected. I never lied about my work, my values, or what I gave you. If I had known you were the Ashford heir, I never would have chosen Victor. I felt the last piece of our marriage die. That is exactly why I didn't tell you." Natalie stared at me. I continued. "I left my family because I wanted to know whether someone would choose me when my name had no value." Tears slid down her face. "And now you know." "Yes." She reached across the table. I moved my hand away. "Help me take the company back. I'll help investigators trace the fraud. I'll protect employees where I can. And me? You'll need your own attorney." Her face hardened with panic. "Serafina turned you against me." "No. You did that yourself. She only waited because she knew you'd come back rich." I stood. "She loved me when I was 17 and willing to lose everything for a hotel worker neither of our families cared about." Natalie rose too. "She wants the merger between Whitmore and Ashford. She canceled our engagement when I asked her to, because she knew you'd return." "No." I looked at the woman I had once believed was proof that love could exist without power. "She let me go because I wanted freedom." My voice lowered. "You left me because you wanted access." Natalie's shoulders collapsed. Before I could walk away, she grabbed my sleeve. "Victor is scared." "Of what?" "There was an audit." I stopped. "What audit?" "An independent accountant found transfers between the acquisition fund and 3 shell companies. Victor ordered me to fire him." "Name?" "Ethan Cole." "Where is he?" "I don't know. He stopped answering yesterday." I called Claire before I reached the sidewalk. Serafina answered instead. "We already found Cole's home address." She said. "How?" I had Claire trace the auditor as soon as Natalie requested the meeting. "You were monitoring me? I was protecting you." "That is a generous description. Is Natalie safe?" I glanced through the window. "She's scared." "That isn't what I asked." "I don't know." Serafina was silent for a moment. "Come back to the office." "Why?" "Because Victor just filed an emergency injunction accusing you of destroying evidence." I closed my eyes. "He's accelerating." "Yes." "And Cole is the evidence he needs destroyed." "Yes." Her voice changed. "Ronan, our security team reached his apartment." "What did they find?" The door was open. My grip tightened around the phone. "And Cole?" "Gone." That evening, Victor appeared on television and called me a fraud. He claimed I had manipulated Natalie, stolen from her company, and used Serafina's feelings to enter Whitmore International. Reporters gathered outside the building. The board called another emergency session, and somewhere in New York, the only accountant who could prove Victor's fund was built on fraud had disappeared. I stood in Serafina's office, studying the transfer records Natalie had sent me. Serafina placed a hand on my shoulder. "We can turn this over to federal investigators." "We will. You don't have to handle it alone." "I know." The answer surprised both of us. She searched my face. I covered her hand with mine. "I'm still afraid to trust what I feel for you." I admitted. Her fingers trembled beneath mine. "But I trust you beside me in this fight." Serafina's eyes softened. "For tonight, that's enough." I turned back to the screen. One transfer appeared repeatedly, hidden beneath different holding companies. The final destination was a private security firm owned by Victor's former partner. I enlarged the payment schedule. The latest transfer had been made 2 hours after Ethan Cole disappeared. Victor had made one serious mistake. He thought I was still the quiet husband who would protect Natalie by staying behind the curtain. He did not understand that I had nothing left to protect except the truth. I picked up my phone. Call Federal Financial Crimes. Serafina watched me, and after that, I looked at Victor's name on the screen. After that, we take everything from him. Victor Langford was arrested 41 hours after Ethan Cole disappeared. The arrest did not happen in a boardroom. It happened in the underground garage of a private airfield outside Newark, where Victor had planned to board a charter jet with 2 encrypted drives, 4 passports, and $12 million in bearer bonds. He never reached the plane. Federal agents surrounded his car before his security team could open the doors. By then, Ethan Cole was already safe. Victor's men had held him in an empty property owned by one of Langford Capital's shell companies. They had taken his phone, threatened his family, and ordered him to sign a statement claiming I had paid him to fabricate evidence. Ethan refused. Serafina's security director found him after tracing payments to the private firm Natalie had identified. When I saw Ethan at the federal building, he had a bruise along his jaw and one wrist wrapped in gauze. He stood when I entered. "Mr. Ashford, you should sit. I need to apologize." "For what?" "I should have reported the transfers earlier. You were trying to protect your staff." "I was scared." "That doesn't make you guilty." His mouth tightened. "Victor said he would ruin my family." "I know. He said no one would believe an accountant over him." "I placed the original payment records on the table. They don't have to believe either of you." Ethan looked down at the documents. "The numbers will speak." "They usually do." He gave a tired laugh. Behind me, Serafina leaned against the doorframe. She had not slept in more than a day, but her posture remained straight and her voice steady. "The government has granted your family protective security," she told Ethan. "Whitmore International will cover your legal expenses." Ethan stared at her. "I can't repay that." "You don't need to." He looked between us. "Why are you doing this?" Serafina answered before I could. "Because people with power should use it to protect those who don't have enough." The words stopped me. They were almost exactly what I had told her when we were 17. She noticed my expression. "What?" "Nothing." "That look is not nothing." Ethan glanced between us again, then wisely looked back at the documents. I waited until we entered the hallway before speaking. "You remembered." Serafina kept walking. "You say many dramatic things. Some are difficult to forget. That was 17 years ago. 12. You counted." She stopped and turned. "I remember the day I fell in love with you." "Ronan." "Of course I counted." "For once." She did not blush after saying it. I was the one who looked away. My chest tightened with something I still did not know how to hold. Serafina studied me. "You don't have to answer. That's the problem." "What is?" "I want to." Her eyes softened. Before either of us could continue, Claire approached with a tablet. "The federal prosecutor is ready. So is every major financial network." I took the tablet. Victor's press conference from 2 days earlier appeared beside the evidence we were about to release. He had called me a thief, a failed husband, a man using a wealthy woman's affection to rebuild his career. I handed the tablet back. "Let's correct the record." The public briefing lasted 38 minutes. I displayed every original authorization Natalie had signed, every false document Victor had created, every transfer through his shell companies, every Brooks hospitality property he had pledged as collateral without proper disclosure. Then Ethan testified by video. The room went silent as he described the threats. When the questions began, Victor's attorney attempted to blame Natalie. He claimed she had approved every transaction. Natalie sat beside her own lawyer, pale and rigid. A reporter called my name. "Mr. Ashford, do you believe Ms. Brooks was involved in the fraud?" Natalie looked at me. For years, I had protected her. I had corrected her mistakes before investors saw them. I had taken calls at midnight so she could sleep. I had stood behind her while she accepted credit because I thought love meant making room for the person beside you. I could have destroyed her with one sentence. Instead, I told the truth. Natalie made reckless decisions. She ignored warnings, signed documents she did not understand, and allowed ambition to replace judgment. Her eyes filled, but I have seen no evidence that she knew Victor planned the kidnapping or forged the technology records. Her shoulders sagged. I continued. She will be accountable for her decisions. She should not be blamed for crimes she did not commit. Afterward, Natalie found me outside the conference room. Her attorney remained several feet away. Serafina stood at the end of the hall, speaking with Claire. She saw Natalie approach, but did not interfere. Natalie stopped in front of me. "You protected me. I told the truth. You could have let them charge me with everything. I don't need a lie to punish you. She flinched. The divorce had aged her. Or perhaps losing Victor's admiration had stripped away the confidence she had borrowed from him. The board removed me. She said, I heard. Langford Capital exercised the voting proxy before the government froze the shares. The court appointed a temporary receiver. The employees needed protection. I lost my company. You risked it. Her eyes flashed. You make it sound like I deserved all of this. You didn't deserve to be defrauded. I paused. But you chose to trust a man because he told you what you wanted to hear. And you never did? I trusted you. The anger left her face. She lowered her eyes. I loved you once. I know. You loved me too. Yes. Then how can you stand there like none of it matters? It matters. My voice came out quieter than I intended. That is why it hurt. She pressed her lips together as tears slipped down her cheeks. I was wrong about you. You were wrong about what made me valuable. I know that now, because my identity became public. No. She stepped closer. Because everything collapsed after you left. I shook my head. That isn't better. Her face crumpled. Ronan, please. We can start over. No. I'll rebuild. I'll give you equal control. Your name can be on everything. You still think this is about credit. I'm trying to fix it. You can't fix a marriage by offering better business terms. She reached for my hand. I did not move, but I did not take hers. What do you want me to say? She whispered. The truth. I was selfish. More. I was ashamed of you. The admission seemed to tear something out of her. I thought Victor's money made him powerful. I thought your quiet life meant you had failed. And now I know you were more powerful than either of us. I looked past her towards Serafina. She had finished speaking with Claire. She stood alone, watching without trying to claim me. 12 years. She had waited 12 years and still refused to take my choice away. I looked back at Natalie. You still don't understand. What don't I understand? I didn't need you to recognize my power. I stepped away from her hand. I needed you to respect me when you believed I had none. Natalie covered her mouth. Behind her, Serafina lowered her gaze. Natalie followed mine and saw her. Her grief sharpened into bitterness. She's using this. Serafina's head lifted. She wants the Ashford and Whitmore families united. She waited because she knew your name would matter again. Serafina said nothing. That silence angered me more than Natalie's accusation. Not because Serafina was weak, because she was giving me the freedom to doubt her. Again, I walked past Natalie and stopped beside Serafina. Then I took her hand. Her eyes widened. I faced Natalie. She waited 12 years and never asked me to surrender anything. Natalie stared at our joined hands. You had my love for 7 years, I said, and you decided it could be traded for a contract. Ronan, there is no version of this where we start again. Her face collapsed. I did not hate her. That was how I knew it was over. Hatred would have required me to remain tied to her. I turned away with Serafina's hand still in mine. She stayed quiet until we entered the elevator. Then she looked down at our fingers. You don't have to hold my hand now. I know. You made your point. I wasn't making a point. Her breath caught. The elevator doors closed. I turned toward her. You could have defended yourself. Natalie was speaking to you. She accused you of using me. I know why I love you. I don't need her to understand. What if I had believed her? Pain passed across Serafina's face. But she answered honestly. Then I would have let you go. My grip tightened. That easily? Nothing about letting you go has ever been easy. She tried to pull her hand free. I held on. I'm tired of you saying that. Her brows drew together. Saying what? That you'll wait. That you'll let me go. That you'll accept whatever I decide. Her expression became guarded. I promise not to pressure you. You're not listening. The elevator opened. I walked out before I said something I was not ready to explain. For the next month, life became quieter. Victor remained in federal custody without bail. Langford Capital entered receivership. Natalie's company was divided between its creditors and a management trust that protected the employees. The court finalized our divorce. Natalie received the apartment and what remained of her personal shares. I kept my intellectual property, my consulting income, and the photo album I still had not opened again. The Ashford family publicly restored my inheritance rights. I declined the title of Group CEO. My father called me himself. You proved your point, he said. I wasn't trying to prove one. You walked away from billions for a woman. I walked away because I wanted a choice. And what are you choosing now? I looked through the glass wall towards Serafina's office. She was arguing with a regional president over staffing cuts. Her expression was cold. her voice controlled, and one hand moved sharply as she dismissed his excuses. Then she noticed me watching. Her face softened. Only for me. I haven't decided. I said. My father sighed. You always were slow where that girl was concerned. I'm hanging up. Tell Serafina I said hello. I'm definitely hanging up. A week later, I accepted a 6-month reconstruction project in Greece. The property had been damaged by an earthquake and abandoned by its previous owner. It needed complete financial, structural, and operational rebuilding. I told myself I needed distance. I needed to know whether my feelings for Serafina were love or gratitude. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded once. When do you leave? Friday. How long? 6 months. Maybe 8. Her face remained calm. I'll have Claire prepare the Whitmore support team. You don't have to. It's a Whitmore project. I requested independent control. And you have it. She looked down at the documents. I won't interfere. That should have relieved me. Instead, it made me angry. On Friday morning, she came to the private terminal to see me off. She had arranged transportation, security, local legal counsel, and an apartment near the project site. She handed me a folder. Everything is inside. You've thought of everything. I usually do. Her voice was steady. Her eyes were not. I set the folder aside. She reached up and adjusted my tie. Her fingers trembled. You'll call if you need anything? Yes. And if you don't, I'll still call. That made her smile, but only briefly. She lowered her hand. I can wait. The words struck me harder than Natalie's betrayal. Serafina stepped back. Something inside me snapped. Stop saying that. Her face went pale. All right. No, you don't understand. I understand. Her eyes dropped. You don't want me to wait. I don't want you to spend another day waiting for me. She went still. I caught her wrist and pulled her back before she could turn away. I already made you wait 12 years. She looked up, hurt and confused. The rest of the distance should be mine to cross. Her lips parted. I placed one hand against her cheek. I thought I rejected you because I hated arranged marriage. You did. No. I rejected what I thought our families would turn us into. My thumb brushed beneath her eye. I was so determined to find a woman who loved me without my name that I ignored the woman who loved me before I understood what the name meant. Her eyes filled. Ronan, you didn't love the Ashford heir. No. You loved the boy who covered your face when you cried. A tear escaped. I wiped it away. You loved the idiot who stayed up all night marking hotel reports because you wanted to prove the board wrong. You called my projections amateur. They were. She laughed through her tears. And you loved the boy who lost his inheritance for challenging his family. Her voice shook. I love the man he became too. I lowered my forehead to hers. I'm still afraid. I know. I can't promise I'll never question this. You don't have to. I may need time. I know. I frowned. Stop agreeing with everything. Her mouth curved. You're making a very emotional speech. I don't want to interrupt. I laughed. Then I kissed her. For 12 years, Serafina had controlled every room she entered. In my arms, she forgot how to breathe. Her hands gripped my jacket. When I pulled back, her cheeks were bright red. That, she whispered, was not enough warning. You stopped an elevator and hugged me. That was different. How? I was in control. You were shaking. I was strategically nervous. I kissed her again. This time, she wrapped her arms around my neck and rose onto her toes. When we separated, the boarding agent politely looked away. Serafina glanced toward the jet. You'll miss your flight. We'll take the next one. I picked up her travel folder and opened it. 2 boarding passes waited inside. I raised an eyebrow. You planned to come? She looked embarrassed. Only for the project launch. You packed for 6 months. I prefer options. I held out my hand. She took it. At the plane steps, she stopped. The confidence left her face. For one moment, she looked like the girl who had once tried to confess her love before I cut her off. Ronan? Yes. Her cheeks reddened. She glanced at our joined hands and then back at me. Can I have you now? I shook my head. No. Her fingers went cold in mine. The color drained from her face. I let her suffer for exactly 1 second. Then I pulled her against me and kissed her forehead. You can have me for the rest of my life. She stared at me, then she hit my chest. That was cruel. You said I become cruel when cornered. I'm revising your contract. You gave me protection. I'll buy the plane and leave you here. I laughed and tightened my arm around her waist. She tried to maintain her glare. She failed. As we boarded together, I finally understood what had taken me 12 years and one broken marriage to learn. Pure love had never required me to run from power, wealth, or my name. It only required someone who would choose the man beneath all of it. Serafina had been choosing me every day since we were children. This time, I chose her back,